Welcome back to Yellow Card Vanguard. I'm your host, Toku from It's Toku TV on Twitch. Throughout the week, I'm streaming Vanguard on my Twitch channel. We'll be building decks, playtesting, and just having a grand old time, so be sure to swing on by. With new Clan Collection reveals coming out every day, you know what that means. It's time for a new chapter of Clan Collection Cores. I want to preface this video and the entirety of the series by saying that many of these lists are entirely conceptual and surface deep, and will need your own playtesting to fine-tune. But each of these will aim to provide a way of thinking on how to take your new support in Clan Collection 3 and 4 and put it into a working deck. They won't all be optimized, but I believe they will be a good baseline to build off of. Welcome to Clan Collection Cores. In the game of American football, you need a team to score a touchdown. But at the end of it all, there's only one person holding the ball in the end zone, and that is Dudley Emperor Reverse. Bringing alongside fairly generic support with him, Dudley Emperor Reverse might be exactly what the clan needed. Let's take a look at DER, and then we'll take a look at my conceptual list and explain it. Our new quarterback, running back, tight end, all of the above, the one-man team is the Great Demon Emperor Dudley Reverse. During the battle phase, when our rearguard is put into the deck, we can lock a standing rearguard and DER gains 10k, then, if the opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or more, we can discard 1 to gain a drive. Secondly, on the Vanguard circle, when DER attacks, if you have no grade 2 or less units, you can counterblast 1, soul blast 1 to search our deck for one normal unit and call it to an open rearguard circle. I think the best thing to notice about DER is how generic he is as a card. Nothing here really reads that we're forced into Dudley cards, but having Dudley Emperor on the rearguard circle really does make him that much easier to go off. It's also able to call any normal unit with its skill, so that just goes further to exemplify its general use cases. The new grade 2 is Agile Fullback. When placed on the back row center rear circle, until end of turn, Agile Fullback gains the ability to attack from the back row, and if placed by an ability, gains 10k. At the beginning of your main phase, you can pay the cost and put it into soul and search for another copy and call it to rear. Also very generic and very nice as well. A very easy way to get an extra attack out of your turns, and acts as a strong attacker that can't be attacked back and gets stronger and stronger each turn since it's able to search more copies out. Finally, the new grade 1 is Machine Gun Gloria. When retired from the Guardian Circle, you can counterblast 1 and call it to an empty rear. At the end of the battle that she boosted a rearguard, you can bottom deck your column that she's in to draw a card. I think the first effect is a tad unfortunate. The counterblast cost there is pretty heavy, as well as the open circle restriction, but being Spike Bros, we can probably easily get open circles. The second effect is what we're really after, being able to convert herself and another card to draw a card. There's a really cool interaction between her and Breach Spurt. If you attack with Breach being boosted by her and use Breach Spurt's cost, you'd be able to have a delayed trigger, and after tucking both Breach and Gloria, we can draw 2 instead. Looking at the list I went with, I kept it fairly simple and played off the fact that having a single Emperor on the rearguard circle enables DER quite easily. Something simple just like break riding DER over Emperor to superior call out an entire field with the classic Davy to Daisy to Emperor or Lucifer depending on if we have another Emperor in hand. Then, as we go through our turn, we can attack with our front row, locking 2 standing units in the back and gaining 20k and 2 drives. Then on our attack, we can call whichever last attacker we want, so we can have something to donate triggers to from our quad drive. With respect to our strategy, we're going to run 4 copies of our new boss unit, Dudley Emperor Reverse, and 4 copies of our break ride and key rearguard piece, Dudley Emperor. DER is the unit we look to finish games on, and Emperor is the unit we look to start off on, but we also need more copies to have on the rearguard as well for its bottom deck effect that complements DER so well. We're also going to run the Dudley Superior Call engine, between 4 copies of Dudley Daisy and 4 copies of Dudley Davy, as well as 3 copies of Dudley Lucifer, a part of the engine that also provides countercharge to our deck. Because Emperor is able to turn any rearguard into a valid attacker due to its 5k buff, we can look towards the best techs to play with. In our grade 1 lineup, I've opted to run 4 copies of Wonder Boy. One of this deck's most sought out after resources is Soul, and Wonder Boy, being a unit that usually sits in the back as to not get attacked, can go into Soul to get a stronger copy of itself next turn, fits our needs very well. He also recycles triggers back into our deck as well as pieces. That is quite wild. I'm also choosing to run a full playset of Dudley William as our ideal grade 1 ride, for its skill to get a quick +1 to the board when rode upon, but its primary skill to go back into the soul and shuffle force markers around gives us extra value out of our first force marker on turn 1. In our grade 2 lineup, to round out the deck, I'm running a full playset of Breach Spurt. Unfortunately, not as cool as Wonder Boy to be able to cycle triggers back to the deck, but has a very cool interaction with Dudley Emperor in that, depending on whether we need a rearguard to the bottom of the deck for DER skill or soul for our future turns, we can resolve it in whichever order we want and still get Breach Spurt's draw. Finally, we run 2 copies of Adorbs Perm Rona. While a really good ride to just grab a Lucifer from our deck for effectively only Soul Blast 1, the other grade 2s do end up outperforming her in the long term. But if we're able to call her out using DER, we can then have her grab another grade 3 and make the column 10k larger through her skill to boost, maybe making the difference between winning or your opponent living with 0 cards in hand. As for the trigger lineup, we're running a fairly standard 8 crit, 4 draw sentinels, 4 heal guardians breakdown. The heal guardians are obviously mandatory for the deck, but we run draw sentinels over crits because our shield value actually isn't that big, so the guarantee guard is helpful. Because DER discards to gain a drive, our hand actually doesn't increase over the course of our turn, just hopefully in quality. If this list isn't to your fancy, don't fret. There's other ways to take the new support. One obvious way is to take advantage of the fact that Dudley Emperor Reverse is generic and is a great target to use alongside Rising Nova. The obvious upside being Rising Nova's effect to gain a Force 1 and a Force 2 at the same time, making your rearguards and your vanguard more threatening. Obviously, alongside Rising Nova, we can run alternate good grade 3s to copy, namely Dead Heat Bowspike. Lastly, as we branch out away from Dudley names and towards more generic cards to make way for Rising Nova, we can look towards the 2 new cards in Agile Fullback and Machine Gun Gloria. I can safely say that even in my list, despite not running the new grade 2 or the grade 1, these cards are pretty good for the Spike Brothers clan. Dudley Emperor Reverse being a generic grade 3 that supports not only mono Dudleys but also other variants of Spike Brothers can only be an upgrade. In any case, this has been it from me for this episode of Clan Collection Cores. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and like the video as it helps motivate us to keep the gears going. Leave a comment down below, as every little bit helps the channel. This has been Toku from the Yellowcard Vanguard channel. Toku out.